Hi everyone, so with Season 7 and the Witchcraft powers out for a little while now, there are some new findings that I want to share with you that are pretty important to know. I already talked about some of them in my recent video about Twilight Warding, so be careful with this one, especially on hardcore. This can currently just like one-shot kill you sometimes when you get hit. This is a bug, so I would suggest to not use this for the time being until that is fixed. And I also talked about Hex of Whispers that can cleanse all debuffs from your character regularly, including the tormented stacks from tormented bosses or from the pit bosses, which is really powerful, especially for high tier pits. So this is something to use, especially if you're trying to push. But there are two more powers that I want to discuss here, which is the Breath of the Coven and the Soul Harvest power. So Soul Harvest is a really strong power that you can try to use in order to push very high in the pit. So this is something that gives you extra primary core stat. So in the case of a Spirit Bond, for example, that's Dex, on a Sorc that's Int, and so on. And this can stack up to 64 times. And it's giving you obviously a lot of damage because effectively your primary core stat is almost a direct damage multiplier. So you see this here, for example, I have 2.5k dex and it gives me 313% skill damage. And this applies to also all the procs and everything that you have on your character. It's a direct damage multiplier. And now, for example, if I get plus 50% of this, well, this 313 would be 470 or something like that. And obviously this is like a pretty massive boost of something like 30-35% DPS or something. On top of potentially getting some more dodge chance here or some more res if you need that on a Sorc and whatever else you might get from your main stat depending on the class. So the Soul Harvest represents one of the most powerful effects that you can possibly have from your witch powers. However, there is a bit of a gimmick here that you have to be aware of, or also a bug I suppose that hopefully will get fixed in the future, which is that if you override Soul Harvest stacks with more stacks, then those extra stacks will not actually really contribute anything. So what you need to know is that you have to make one large pull at the start of the run and try to get as many stacks as possible and then carry it forward for the rest of the run. So you see this here, for example, when I did like some pushing yesterday, I just kind of walked in here. I tried to pull a lot of stuff together without attacking, without doing any cooldown uses. And then once I have like a big pack, I press my cooldown and you see here, now I get 34 stacks. This is the Soul Harvest buff here, this purple icon. And now it does increase to 37, for example, because more monsters walked in. However, those 3 extra stacks that I got from the previous stack do not actually help me anymore. So right now, this is just how it works. So you have to deal with that. And it's also something you just need to kind of keep in the back of your mind. When you do a push on a high tier, try to make one large pull at the start, pull like 2 or 3 packs together, try to get like 50 monsters in there, and then press your first cooldown. Obviously, this is a little bit difficult depending on the build and how tanky or squishy you are. You can't just like walk in and not press any buttons. But for example, this only happens when you press cooldowns. So you can at least walk in and maybe press your auto attack or press your core skill or something like that. Maybe that can like heal you or give you barriers or whatever you're doing with your build. And then once you have a large stack of monsters, you press a cooldown. Now, the cool thing about this is that you can carry forward those stacks throughout the entire run. So with a maxed out Soul Harvest, this lasts 15 seconds. So it's very easy to keep it up for the rest of the run, just kind of pressing a cooldown here and there. For example, also when you walk into the boss room, you can just press a cooldown before the boss spawns and then walk after the boss, and you will still have your 50 stacks or something like that. It's just important to be aware of the fact that you cannot override your Soul Harvest stacks with more stacks and expect to gain a benefit. You need to have the one large pull at the start. And the other power I want to talk about is the Breath of the Coven. This one gives you a lot of attack speed, and a lot of people were under the impression this is an attack speed cap 2, the so-called temporary attack speed cap, which would make a lot of sense, but apparently not to Blizzard. So we learned that actually this is cap 1, which is kind of bad because most builds actually cap out cap 1 relatively easily. This is what, for example, includes all of your gear attack speed. So a lot of builds just have a lot of that. And cap 2 is usually the one where you have less. So if you don't know what I'm talking about at all, then I recommend that you check out the attack speed post here that we have by Ava, which details all of that. But TLDR is you can have 100% bonus in cap 1 and 100% bonus in cap 2. And they are listed out here by class, so you can check all of the effects. And as you can see here, like a gear attack speed is cap 1, for example. Wherever the Coven now has been added here as well, that we previously thought was in cap 2. And cap 2 is usually kind of like harder to stack up for most builds. So this makes Breath of the Coven just kind of like less desirable. Of course, if you don't actually reach that 100% cap or close to it anyway, then it doesn't really matter, but it's something to be aware of because it's a very high bonus. So this can go up to 45% extra, basically giving you half of the cap 1. So it's very easy to kind of overcap it. For example, I was playing an Andariel's build, and Andariel's just comes with a ton of attack speed, and you easily cap out here with such a setup. And in that case, Breath of the Coven was just like not helpful anymore, and I actually had to swap off of it after I learned this. So just wanted to make you guys aware of this. And yeah, just might have to like tweak some of your setups depending on how much attack speed you actually got. And that's also what I got to share here for now. So let me know if there's anything else that you feel I should be talking about with the seasonal powers. But let's see what happens with maybe some updates. Maybe gonna get a fix to the Soul Harvest stuff that I talked about. And yeah, who knows. But for now, that's what I got here. So just keep this in mind when you make your own builds. And I'll see you guys next time.